Hey guys.
Sup? DC has...
So, as you heard, you just heard the words DC just said, so yes. This is the top 10 mistakes DC wants you to forget. If Suicide Squad isn't one of them, I'd be surprised.
Just the entire movie.
There's nothing wrong with the cast, in my opinion. It's just, yeah. Alright, let's just get into it. Let's do it.
DC has given us some of the greatest superheroes in history, but not everything this comic book company touches turns to gold. Welcome to WatchMojo.com, and today we'll be counting down the top 10 mistakes DC wants you to forget.
I actually sort of quit.
Before we begin, we publish new videos every day, so be sure to subscribe for more great content. For this list, we'll be looking at business mistakes, bad branding decisions, and mishandled situations which, given the fallout, DC likely regrets and wishes they'd approach differently.
Seriously, the hell's wrong with you people?
We're bad guys. It's what we do.
Number 10. Wonder Woman, JSA Secretary. Nowadays, the Justice League are DC's premier superhero team, but in the golden age of comics, heroes rallied under the banner of the Justice Society of America. In All-Star Comics number 13, the recently created Wonder Woman aided the Justice Society, and they made her an honorary member. Her role?
Honorary?
Secretary. Realistically, the depiction of women in comics was very different in 1942, so this wasn't considered problematic. Rather than a sexist move, it's actually been said that Wonder Woman was sidelined in this fashion at her creator's insistence, not wanting other people to write her storylines. Regardless, in hindsight, we're sure Wonder Woman and DC both leave this bit of her employment experience off her resume. Number 9. The Harley Quinn Contest.
Secretary.
Soliciting art submissions to be featured in the first issue of a new comic starring one of DC's most popular characters is a great way to engage your readership and the larger comic book community. Asking people to draw a female character seemingly attempting to commit suicide in a variety of ways? Not so much. Given the well-documented violent objectification of female characters in comics, fans weren't thrilled that, to win the contest, they had to draw Harley Quinn trying to take her own life in a bathtub. Yes, it was intended as a riff on Suicide Squad, but the concept still missed the mark and offended many. Number 8. The DC Explosion. For every action, there is a reaction. And unfortunately for DC Comics, they did not get the one they were hoping for with this ambitious marketing tactic in the 1970s. The DC Explosion was a move intended to help the company overtake their rival, Marvel, by drastically increasing the number of monthly titles, making each issue longer and jacking up the prices. Unfortunately for them, this coincided with freakishly bad winters that hurt distribution and an economic downturn which affected the entire industry. The end result was the so-called DC implosion, which saw the publisher lay off staff and unceremoniously cancel some 20 comics or 40% of their titles. Lesson learned, quality over quantity. Number 7. The 2011 Wonder Woman TV series.
Didn't even freaking air.
But I am here, John. Over this?
Wonder Woman is back front and center in the mainstream pop culture consciousness thanks to her hit 2017 film, starring Gal Gadot and directed by Patty Jenkins. But before DC landed this desperately needed cinematic home run, they tried to give Wonder Woman a live-action adaptation in the medium in which she'd previously flourished, television. Starring Adrienne Palicki in a very cheap and chestly Wonder Woman costume, a pilot episode was produced but didn't make it to series. When critics saw the episode, they weren't impressed. The generous among them called it unremarkable, while TV critic Alan Sepinwall called it embarrassing. Thankfully, Wonder Woman had greater opportunities on the horizon.
Let's just get it over with, while your hero capital is running high.
Number 6. The poor planning of the DCEU.
So that's it? What, we some kind of Suicide Squad?
2017's Wonder Woman was a big hit, but unfortunately, it's the outlier in a series of misses. Green Lantern was envisioned as DC's Iron Man, and we all know how that turned out.
In truth, we were curious. The process had never been attempted on a species as young as humans before.
Next came Man of Steel in 2011, and though it wasn't the big hit they had hoped for, DC persevered, continuing to expand this cinematic universe despite an unstable foundation. Unfortunately, multiple movies later, they still haven't found their footing. Warner Bros. Has announced dozens of projects, only to backpedal and frequently revise their slate of upcoming movies. The universe seemingly produces films without a master plan, with each new film begrudgingly having to work with the mistakes of movies past. Having duplicate characters on film and TV certainly doesn't help either.
Your body may not be able to handle this.
That's where DC's flourishing right now, on TV. That's where it's all
Number 5.
good.
Turning down super writers. Yeah,
We and I, along with Mark Mellon and Tom
I had this idea of maybe taking over the Superman books in 2000 and kind of refocusing them, revitalising them a little bit.
If you want to publish great comics, you need great writers, and unfortunately, DC has walked away from pitches by some serious talent. Towards the end of the 90s, DC recognized the need to shake things up with their various Superman comics, and amongst the potential creatives was a dream team consisting of Grant Morrison, Mark Waid, Mark Millar, and Tom Payer. It sounds like a comic book fantasy draft, but it's true. Ultimately, DC passed. Yes, you heard right. Not only did they lose out on a potentially great take on Superman, but they basically gave Morrison and Miller to Marvel, where the two proceeded to do incredible work on the new X-Men and the Ultimate Universe books respectively. Fortunately for fans, Morrison would later use some of his earlier ideas
Imagine
to
if they
create the
didn't pass
groundbreaking
along.
All-Star
Yeah.
Superman series in 2005. Number 4, The New 52. The New 52
What's wrong
was
with
a
the new-
real
I like the
mixed
new
bag.
52.
This 2011 reboot was intended as a welcome point of entry to new readers who might be intimidated by the convoluted history of DC Comics. Unfortunately, that ambitious number, 52 titles, showed that they'd learned nothing from the DC implosion of the 70s. Niche titles like Dial H and Resurrection Man were cancelled before they could really develop a following. Just 5 years later, Rebirth allowed DC to hit the reset button yet again, leading us to believe they'd be just as happy to forget the New 52 ever happened as we would. Number 3, eating the competition. In business, it can be tempting to want to snuff out your competition. But in a creative industry like comics, you have to be careful about messing with competitors that your clients might also appreciate. Over the years, DC has bought and consumed more than one of its rivals when they were struggling. In some instances, feels like a black mark on the publisher's legacy. In the 1950s, they sued Fawcett Comics, claiming that Shazam, aka Captain Marvel, was infringing upon the copyright of Superman, and then over the years proceeded to buy
Yeah, I
up
read
more
about that.
Fawcett characters. They also swooped in to grab Charlton Comics characters like Captain Atom in the 80s and Wildstorm in the 90s, when each was struggling. Who knows what the comics industry would look like today had these publishers remained independent. Number 2, ignoring Bill Finger.
The only thing I've always
Really?
gotten from the people that I've talked to at DC is, we know what your grandfather did. We wish we could put his name on it, but we can't because of the contracts that we have.
Nowadays, when you're dealing with Batman, the character is credited to Bob Kane with Bill Finger. But for many years, the man who actually designed the character's look in the 1930s was given zero credit. Of course, in recent years, giving creators their due has become a much bigger conversation. In 2015, decades after Finger's death in 1974, and only following a campaign by his family, friends, and fans, DC finally acquiesced and started crediting the co-creation of the character to Finger as well as Kane. Though they finally set things right in this regard, the fact that it took them roughly 75 years to do so,
Yeah.
and that Bill had already passed away once they did, doesn't look great.
Correcting that isn't just a simple matter of putting Bill Finger's name onto Batman. It also opens up the floodgates to a massive conglomerate for potential revenue tapping.
Number 1, denying Siegel and Schuster the recognition they deserved.
Well, Superman came about because both Joe Shuster and I were great science fiction fans back in the 1930s.
DC and Superman might be synonymous, but Superman wasn't invented in-house. Friends and classmates Bill Schuster and Jerry Siegel began developing Superman when they were still in high school, undergoing numerous changes before becoming the character we know today. After years of rejection by various publishers, and desperate to see their creation reach the public eye, they sold all the rights of Superman to the company that would become DC in 1938 for just $130. Though both continued to work in the industry, they never got the respect they deserved.
That's a fair bit of
In
money back then.
1975, after a widely publicized campaign
Yeah,
that
it's
shamed
still
DC,
there.
they finally got proper accreditation and a pension to match.
And the proof is that they are still here, and they're as big today as they ever were at the very beginning.
Do you agree with our picks? Check out these other great clips from WatchMojo and subscribe for new videos every day.
Yeah, the DCEU's rushed, but it's not as bad. I think it's over-exaggerated. Like, Man of Steel was good. It was a great start. Batman v Superman was just long. That's the only problem. It was its pacing. It was just really, really long to get to the point. If you see past that, it's good. Suicide Squad, that was obviously rushed. Honestly, nothing wrong with the cast. It was a good cast. But it was just a stupid, recycled story. That's all that was. Wonder Woman obviously is their best one so far, but I think that one was overhyped. It was good, but it wasn't that great. And Justice League, I'm actually shocked that it only made what 650 million worldwide. That's disgusting. Like, are you kidding me? It's DC's elite team, and no one bothered to go and see it because what, Zack Snyder or something? Are you kidding me? That's, if this is the fans' way of saying fuck you, reboot, then I don't know what is. I didn't find anything wrong with Justice League. I enjoyed it when I went and saw it. We all did. We all had a great time watching it. So I don't know what the friggin' problem is. It was great.
I mean, it's got flaws. But it's good.
Obviously, but all movies have flaws. No movies are perfect. Avatar's not perfect, and look how much it made. It's, and look at Black Panther, for crying out loud. 1.2 billion worldwide, and it's okay
That
at
shocked
best.
me actually. When I heard that, I was just like,
It's
whoa.
okay at best. It's not that great. It's not. So
For me, Black Panther, I know this is DC, but it had a missing ingredient that I was hoping to expect. But yeah. But anyway, DC,
back to DC. Like,
yeah.
Like, sure, DC has its flaws. It's trying to catch up, but at the same time, it's not as bad as people say. In my opinion, it's not.
Everyone's got a difference of opinions with DC. I mean, like, it's getting a lot more criticised than it should.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. They're
I
trying
mean, we can all agree that Suicide Squad is the worst. Oh, well, I shouldn't say the worst. The most down.
It's the most disappointing
Yeah.
one. It's like no one asked for it, but they
But
did
it could have
anyway.
been so much better.
Yeah, exactly. So, like, as far as we know, we've got Aquaman coming out. Shazam is currently filming. There's no plans for JL2. The Batman trilogy is still in the works. So Matt Smith hasn't given up on that. Ben Affleck is still attached to it, despite various news articles and websites saying, oh, he's going to exit. Don't believe a fucking word. Don't buy into anything unless the Warner Brothers executives and the director Matt Reeves himself says so.
As well as Ben Affleck
Yes.
too.
Until then, take every bullshit reported piece of news about him leaving with a grain of salt. Okay? It's like some random flat earther carries on about the earth and they find evidence. Don't jump all over it and expect it to be there, the evidence to be there, or just don't do it. So just, yeah, that's my rant over about that. But anyway, what do you guys think? Like, do you agree with that list? I agree with half of it, yes. But what do you guys think? Did they miss something? Comment below, let us know. We'll end it on that now.
Catch you later, guys.